Well, hello everybody and welcome back down into the dungeon for my usual Sunday look around at what I've got growing on here. And this week's going to be kind of interesting because I kind of need to check every single plant that's down here because I just discovered the cat was down here unsupervised for probably an hour to 2 hours. So God only knows what he got into. Yeah, let's find out, I guess. Eh? Alright. Here we go. Alright, so I guess we'll start over here on what's slowly becoming the herb table. Because I think if he was going to be attacking anything, this cat mint would probably be the first victim. But I don't actually see anything that looks like it's been chewed off there. So my next concern kind of becomes those spider plants I've got in the corner, but we'll get to that in a bit. The coffee plant back there. I'm very interested to see how it's sprouting out and starting to branch off. Could be quite a thing one day. This lemon tree beside it is, I don't know. It is doing well, it's not doing well. It's kind of gone back and forth between those two states for its whole life with me, really. It's not doing well is definitely this devil's heart here. And you'll notice what's not here is the orange habanero. It has gone to that great compost in the sky. And yeah, I've got some interesting theories about that. I think basically it boils down to once it goes outside, it stays outside. There's that rosemary in the back, finally recovering from the butcher job it got so I could spray everything with some rosemary water. The MA Wartrix seems to be doing okay. We've got, you know, solid looking growth in here. A couple of spots farther up that might be new growth. I don't know. The mint in it is doing fantastic though, so that's always good. Much like the mint, you can see it a little better this week than last. Got here in one of the Carolina Reapers. Again, this thing's got what appears to be solid new growth at the base, but it's really hard to tell, you know. It's just, I don't know. I hope this thing makes it around to next season. Got one of the spider plants that's in safekeeping. That weird crooked Dieffenbachia. Finally transplanted it from its little solo cup into something slightly larger. Not a whole lot larger, but slightly larger. It's that oregano that I transplanted out of the hydroponics. This is just going insane. I took 2 long cuttings off of this to put them in the fish filter that we'll look at in a few minutes here. But alright, so while we're here, let's take a look at this. This is the yellow sticky traps that you can get for, you know, getting rid of pests and whatever. And these are cheap white labels that I got at the pharmacy. It was like $2 or whatever for a whole pack of them. And I'm just putting it on there to see if it'll trap anything. It looks kind of like there's a bug just freely walking down the side of it there, so maybe not sticky enough. But I figure it's worth trying if it's a cheaper option that might actually work. I mean, it also kind of looks like there's a couple... Oh, my finger's throwing off the contrast there, but kind of looks like there might be a couple of bugs stuck to it already. This has only been in place for about an hour or so, so we'll know next week, really, if it's doing anything. This mint looks a little more crowded than maybe last time you saw it. The mint itself is doing fantastic. It, you know, typical herbs, really, herbs, whatever, just seem to love this LED grow light that I've got up here. But the old peppers from outside don't seem to like it so much. However, the new peppers, because I started testing with this one here, and it still seems to be growing just fine under the light. So I've started slowly moving some others over here. We've got a little super chili here to go with our matchbox, and we've got one of the paper lanterns, which apparently is a habanero pepper, but really very productive habanero pepper. And then I think this might be, oh, it's the ahi pennick. I was thinking this was one of the Grandpa Siberian home peppers just because it's so big, but look at the leaves on this. Nice big broad leaf, so I'm very hopeful that growing under this light their whole life, they'll be able to produce under this light, continue growing, and this is how I'll get my winter pepper garden, by just keeping them under it their whole time that they're with me. I don't know if it's going to work. I can only hope, right? This Nepalese bell, this is, you know, sort of come back. Not really. I was looking at some different diagnose what's wrong with your leaf blogs, and this kind of looks like it could be overwatering, which is, well, wouldn't be the first time I've been guilty of that, you know. Here's that pitcher plant. Can't recall who was asking about it the other day because I skipped it in the houseplant video. It's still alive, but as you can see, not doing well. I really should just clip this off, I think. This newer growth on the top kind of seems like it's doing the best out of everything since being brought down to this light. It was mentioned to me it prefers natural sunlight, but I just don't have a windowsill I can put this thing in. So I was hoping that moving it under this grow light would provide enough of the right kind of light, but I don't know if it is or not. Does kind of look like new growth at the top here though. So we'll just have to see. And like I say, when I cut this off, that'll probably help because it's spending a lot of energy to try and keep this alive right now, I imagine. Anywho, let's go check out underneath the other grow light. And then we can move on to things of kind of a more normal spectrum. Sugar Rush Red here. It's got a lot of aphids on it, but I have a plan for those aphids, and I guess you'll be hearing about that in the rant video. Got nothing nice to say about aphids. But I think we might be able to save this plant. I'm very hopeful, I'm very excited. The El Oro de Ecuador, there's a few places here. We've got what appears to be new growth after its dramatic cutting. So I'm really hopeful there too, because again, these leaves will have formed underneath this funky LED grow light. So maybe, just maybe, I can save this beauty, because that was a productive pepper plant. Up here we've got the yellow scorpion that I still have yet to see a fruit from. We've got a lot of dying leaves on the top here. I'm going to be doing some more cutting here soon. But again, we can see aphid covered, but new growth in the middle there. New growth all along the back stalk there, new growth along the side stalk. So cutting it was definitely a good idea. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be able to save it. Again though, the mint in it is doing quite well. I got mint all over the place now. Here's the sage. You can see a lot of new growth. I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but everywhere that it was clipped back, we've got the two little shoots coming down, and this is going to be incredibly bushy in no time. Very excited about that. Alright, well I guess while we're still under this light, sort of, there's the fish tank, my so-called aquaponic garden. The water level dropped because I put a cheesecloth on there and I fiddled with it, and I didn't stop to look where it was going to be in the filter, and the poor basil didn't make it. Its roots weren't far enough down, so it wilted and died. But we've got two little oregano shoots that I've cut off just today and put in there to try and root. And of course we've got the mint sprig, which you really can't see through the viewfinder here, but hopefully you can see that when I edit it or when you're watching it. But yeah, that seems to be growing. Looks like it's gotten taller. So that's exciting. And our cloudy fish tank water, our sketched out fish. But one thing I did want to make sure I showed you was that I have removed that terracotta pot, and I took one of our dollar store planters and I drilled 4 very large holes, one in each side, so the fish now have a cave they can hide in and play in and swim through, and more importantly the water is moving through there and I'm not creating a pocket of toxic stagnant water. So thank you very much for that reminder that I needed to do that. Alright, so from aquaponics to aquaponic powered hydroponics, I guess, under the fluorescent light where things look normal. See, now this spider plant looks like the cat might have been at it while he was down here today. Oh, and so does the one beside it. Tip of that one, I don't remember that being quite so ravaged either. Well, on the upside there was no fur in the fish tank, so that's a good thing. So looking at that leaf diagnosis site, that's either a nitrogen issue or an overwatering issue. So we'll find out if it's nitrogen soon enough, because fish water, you know, eventually ends up pretty full of that. I'm going to do some more cutting, take it down to about half its height, see where it grows from there. Hope for the best on that, but got this elderberry bush, black lace elderberry. Doesn't look very black growing under this light, but it is definitely growing. Got a couple of mint cuttings back there, because you never have too much mint. That one is definitely sprouted roots. I'm not pulling it up to prove the point, but I mean, look at it clearly. Got another little sprig I stuffed in there. We've got the cat mint here. So we should probably pull that leaf off by this point. Right now, the watering cycle on this garden is 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off. and then it just kind of drains out through those pipes and back into the reservoir. Thinking about maybe making it 15 minutes on, 45 minutes off. I'm not quite sure how well these plants will respond to that, but if that is an overwatering issue, then maybe that'll help save that Aquaponics, right? One can certainly hope. So continuing my little turnaround in the dungeon here, finally raised the light a little bit so it's a little easier for me to work and show off what I've got growing. I've rescued up a lot of the solo cups, so I'll be ready to start planting again soon. Next couple of days I'll probably start going through the pepper seeds and see what I haven't got going yet. But we can see, guess this one wants a little attention. That one's doing alright. I got some nice new growth in the middle. These little Scotch bonnets need a new home. They're the last ones that were in cups that need to be replanted. I'm really liking using these noodle cups. They're so easy to label, right? But in the back we can see what, the Scotch bonnet there and a paper lantern. Got an ahi lemon drop here. Seems to be doing just fine. Ahi calabaza in the back was not looking good. Still not looking great, but not dead yet. It's a sweet mini bell. This one here is also a sweet mini bell, but you can see its leaves are having some issues. The new stuff looks a lot healthier, but these older leaves are toast. Not sure what's going on there. It's one of those matchbox peppers. This has already started to branch out and do its thing that way. It's going to be really interesting to see. Quite a few aphids on the top of this. So I guess I'll show you really quickly what I'm doing with the aphids. Well, yeah, I got the tripod. Give me a second, I'll figure this out. So what I've been doing now that I've got some fish around is I've been kind of trying to cover up as much of the soil in these plants as I can, and then just taking my finger and flicking off all of these aphids. I'll try and get a shot with the camera of the surface of the water. Turn the plant, flick it some more. But you can clearly see them falling from the plant from my perspective, and I'm watching them kind of drift around the water in the current. And the goldfish kind of seem to be eating these things up. And it gets rid of the vast majority of the aphids that are on this plant, while kind of strengthening the stem a little bit because it's, well, stressful. So, yes, I will not be defeated. I will win those aphid wars yet. We're almost done looking around the gardens here. Got one more little spot to show you, and then I am adding to our collection by heading upstairs and bringing the sand dollar down. It's actually got some signs of life on it. So I trimmed it up, and I'll show you guys that before we're done too. But first, more seedling. So underneath those $25 PVC lights that I set up, I've been starting to move a few of these pepper plants over. This one needs to be flicked over the fish tank as well. But we can see Grandpa's Siberian Home is certainly doing quite well under these lights. What is this in the back here? The label's turned away. It's another super chili. What a surprise. It's also doing quite well and apparently needs to go over the fish tank. Got an Aquaponics. Leaves aren't quite as broad on this one, but I had some variation last year with the Aquaponics, so it might actually be a somewhat different pepper. We're just going to have to see how the genetics work on that. And then over here still I've got my tortured basil. Got the one dark opal there in the back that deserves to be replanted. That little basil there, you know, I don't know how much longer it's got. It's not having a good go of it. But a couple of these ones are looking alright, so whatever. Basil seeds are cheap. I don't really mind if I have to replant those. Yeah. So I'm going to flick a couple more of these plants over the fish tank, and then we'll go get the sand dollar. So in a very temporary position, here we have the sand dollar from the 2016 pepper garden, which is, as you can see, ridiculously too tall for the lights right now. But I'm going to put it under these fluorescents kind of where the fan is, because there's a lot of light that doesn't really get used for any gardening there. And there's not a lot that goes on kind of below the table height on this plant. So I'm thinking that should be a good combination. And that way she's down here for the fish water, which will hopefully help bring this beautiful plant back to life. Because if you look really carefully, my camera doesn't want to focus on it, but there is new growth popping out at a lot of these nodes since I've done some cutting. Seems to me it was about this time last year that the sand dollar started to sort of come back to life as well. And honestly, I think it's going to be just plain warmer down here than upstairs in the studio, because we still haven't fixed the ceiling and we have an insulation issue. But before I find a permanent place for this, I've definitely got to shake it out over the fish tank. A lot of aphids on here that just don't need to be around. Might even wipe it down with a cloth to get any that are still lingering. But I can honestly say it brings me a great deal of joy to watch these little goldfish swim around eating those aphids. For all the grief that they've given me over all the years. Well, that's the rant video, isn't it? For now we'll just enjoy these delightful goldfish mowing away on free food. Protein-rich free food at that. Steal from my garden, will ya? Alright. Alright everybody, so I guess that's where I'm going to wrap up the quick look around, because clearly I'm getting into more of a mindset for that aphid rant video. Great topic suggestion, by the way. Thank you very much. I think we all know that's a good rant point for me. Anywho, I've got to clean off that sand dollar before I put it in place. I got lots of things to do. But I'm hoping to find a few channels to throw up around the edges, and yeah, feel free to check them out, explore them, who knows, they might even be you. If you've commented on any of my videos, you've got pretty much the same chance as everybody else. Y'all aren't really helping me out with that. I did mention throw something down in the comments if you've got a gardening channel or whatever, and then hopefully I'll get you up in the clips at the end. But I've only had like 2 people respond, and that's over the course of like 3 or 4 videos, so come on man, help a guy out.